to welcome all of our students and, wherever you're from, because it is open to everybody, all our parents that are with us, or maybe we have participants from within the community or outside the area. And we would just like for you to drop your name in the chat area, tell us where you're from and what the name of your business is while I go over the administrative functions of this platform. If anytime, you can ask a question anytime. We'll open up with the CEO telling us about themselves. Then I'll go ahead and get into the Q&A process, Q&A portion of today's segment. And what you can do is just tap anywhere on your device, whether you have a tablet, an iPhone, or Android, tap anywhere on your device, and then option menus will be highlighted. And you just look for the participant feature and you just click on that, and then you'll have a drop down menu and you click on the chat feature, and that's how you find the chat, and you just put your question in there anytime throughout the segment, and we'll make sure we get your questions and your answers addressed live while we're right here on the platform. And also, if you're interested, if you have to leave early and you want to finish the rest of the segment, we will also have it posted later on this week or next week on the Metropolitan Business League's website. And I would like to welcome everybody, and let's welcome our CEOs. Everybody, let's give them a round of applause. We have Mrs. Jelinda Smithson, and we have Mr. Kevin Fox from right here in Richmond, and we're so excited to have you all with us today. I dressed up a little bit today. You can't see my outfit or anything, but I try my best for the fashion and stuff, but we'd like to welcome you. And we're gonna open up with Miss Jelinda Smithson. And you can tell us anything you want to share with us, starting back to when you realize fashion, fashion is where it's at right now.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Kimberly, and thank you to the MBL. So I would like to say, first off, that I've always been kind of a tall girl, and I have kind of been a big girl growing up all the time. And sometimes growing up, I didn't really see a lot of fashion that looked like it reflected me. And I dressed terrible, and people used to make fun of my shoes on the bus and all that kind of stuff. So sometimes as a kid, you might have an idea about wanting to do fashion, and then your mom and your dad have a different idea about the fashion budget. So I will let you guys know that I grew up in Southern Virginia on a farm. It's an area called Lunenburg County. And when I was really young, I really loved drawing, putting puzzles together. I always really liked creativity in general, but I wasn't exactly sure how that would translate. And I took a lot of science and math and all of those classes that they have you take in high school. And every year, my high school guidance counselor would say, "I see you keep signing up for this art class. You don't need to be in this art class." And so every year, my mom went up to the guidance counselor to say, my child wants to be in art class, so you're going to get her in art class. And so it was always a fuss. It was always a fight. And I think at the time, there's not a lot of creative fields in the area where I grew up. It's a very small town. So just traditional careers made more sense to people. So I think they were trying their best to help me, but they were trying to discourage me from being in the art class. And I told my mom it was my favorite part of the day. And so kept going to art class. My senior year, decided that I didn't want to go and try to be a doctor or a business person or an accountant. My mom was an accountant, and I wanted to try to do creativity and go to art school. And so I had looked up what are good art schools, and Richmond, Virginia, which was 2 hours away from us, happened to have a really great art school at VCU. And so I asked my parents, "Are you okay if I apply for art school?" And they were like, "Well, we don't know what you're going to do with an art degree." And so I pulled out the catalog and I said, "Well, here's the different options they said, and I want to try to go to this option." And basically I applied to art school, got accepted, had grades enough to be able to get a form of a scholarship to be able to come. And I studied illustration at VCU. And then while I was in college, got a job at Circuit City. I don't know if the students will know what that is, but some of your parents may know what that is. that Circuit City was an electronics store and they had a headquarters based out in the West End of Richmond. So I would, after class, drive out to the West End and do a little bit of a form of graphic design for Circuit City. So that was kind of my start into something creative. And I would say that my passion or my vision for getting into the fashion industry started probably about 5 years ago because I started selling Stella Dot. So I don't know if anyone's familiar with that, but Premier Designs is another one. Silpata is another jewelry company. And I loved how the jewelry looked. And so I learned how to host parties and I learned how to talk to customers and I learned how to try on the jewelry and help other people try on jewelry and figure out what looked great for them. And then through that time period, I remembered I had these huge stacks of beads that I always had as a kid. I always have loved color. I've always loved putting things together in a creative way. And so I pulled out these stacks of beads and started to put necklaces together just for myself. And I would say a year or so of just making necklaces, I would look in my closet, I might pull out something like this and say, well, I want some colors to go with this outfit. I didn't necessarily have a necklace that I liked. I would put some beads together, string them on a necklace, and I started to wear them out. And it was probably a year of just wearing my necklaces out that people said, oh, where did you get that? And then eventually I started selling them to friends and family. And then as of this last year, I'm not sure how many folks might have heard of the Richmond Night Market, but it's an amazing platform for makers and artists. And I had never been part of a vendor event. I'd never sold necklaces out to people I didn't really know. And so I got in touch with the ladies that organized the Richmond Night Market and applied to be a vendor. They accepted me. And then it was like I had a deadline and a goal, and I started to make more necklaces. And really, that's my entry into fashion. So I'm wearing one of them today. I do a lot of tassel necklaces, and I started with buying tassels and buying beads and putting them together. And then I figured out how to make my own tassels. So this is a tassel that I've made myself. And so I usually have 3 to 5 necklaces, sets or lines is what I call them. This is a summer neon fashion line that I've done. So a lot of the necklaces have similar colors, but not everyone is the same. So each one is a little bit different. So I sell at the Richmond Night Market. I sell through Etsy and I sell through Instagram. And what pays my bills full-time all day long is graphic design and web design. That's something that I learned and picked up at my time at VCU. But I also have now started to make money selling necklaces and being in the fashion industry myself. So it's been really exciting. And that's kind of my story.
Okay, that's great. That's great, Jolinda. Thank you so much, and we'll come back to you.
Okay.
Next, we have Mr. Kevin Fox with the Suited Fox. How you doing, Kevin?
Hey, doing well, doing well. Thank you, Kimberly. And again, thank the MBL for inviting me. This is something I enjoy doing, talking about how I got into this business. Just to give you a little feedback, I probably got in a lot sooner than a lot of you just because of the fact that my mother had me get into some hair modeling and fashion shows at about 5 years old. So, yeah, I had no idea what I was doing. I just knew I had to be there, on time. So I got into this, kind of got indoctrinated into the fashion world pretty early on. From there, went through school. I always enjoyed, fashion and whatever was out at the time, and like to, look nice, and clothing was always important to me. But along the way, I also developed a gift for art and drawing. So I decided to merge the two and took a similar path as Jolinda and went to VCU for fashion illustration, which was my major along the time at VCU. Again, I loved it all. I probably got to about my senior year and decided that's probably not what I wanted to do full time, because I enjoyed the fashion and the illustration part more so as relaxation, more so than a deadline. having this here. So I met a lot of connections along the way and kind of pulled out and went more so the business side. Managed a couple of the stores. You mentioned Circuit City. Some of the older stores that were here from a clothing standpoint, which used to be really some of the nice stores, were Britches of Georgetown, Britches Clothing Store. And then I, managed a bunch of those from Regency Mall to Willalon Mall and Chesterfield, all of them. And did that for a few years and had a gentleman come in and said, you probably should be doing something different. And you all gonna laugh because at that point I pivoted to the financial planning industry. So went from fashion to financial planning and been in that world for almost 30 years or so, but always enjoyed the fashion part of what I did at Britches, but wanted to probably get back in somehow later on, never knew how I would, and ended up in about 2015, 2016, I had some guys come to me and said, well, why don't you, try to do your own or help us out with some of the vendors? Let me back up a bit. We used to buy a lot of custom clothing from guys who would come into town, and they would come in from California. They would come in from overseas, from Italy, the whole works. And I had a lot of friends who would meet me there, and we would go there and buy new suits and shirts and all the other, things that you would buy from a custom standpoint. Well, I would have guys call me to meet them there to make sure that the guys selling the stuff was selling them the right thing. So a lot of those guys ended up telling me, well, why don't you run your own label and you just run your stuff through us? And I did that for a bit, but still never did anything. And then I actually got contacted by some other folks and decided to do my own. So from about 2016, it kind of sat there for about 6 to 8 months. And until my buddies kept pushing me to, do some custom clothing for them. Not because they wanted to help, they more so wanted a discount, but that's what they came for, which is cool. So that's how I got in, and started off as more of a hobby and just kind of having fun. Happy to say probably this year, end of last year, it was pretty close. Wasn't quite where my financial planning practice is, but let's just say it's doing really well. And it's pretty consistent. I've got repeat customers and also have new customers probably coming on a weekly basis. So it's for me, it's a lot of fun because I've always been passionate about fashion and details and whether it be trends and being careful, being too trendy versus not being too old school and just kind of doing a mix. So that's been my world. I've taken the same approach in the fashion industry or the custom clothing world as I do in the financial planning world, which in the financial planning, it's always about finding out what's important to that client about their money. And then from there, focusing on those individual or that family's needs. So in my world, on the fashion side as well, I take the same approach, but I want to find out what's important to them about their clothing. And some folks want you to handle it from start to finish, just like financial planning. And some, they have an idea of what's important to them and they go for it. And then some, quite honestly, just in the planning world, I have a conversation and say that may not work for you. So you just have to be real with people, and people appreciate that. So that's kind of my story and where it started from along. There's a lot of things in between, a lot of trial and error, which I'm fortunate to have because I've treated each mistake or along the way as a tool for learning. And it's been important to me. And I've been able to enhance my business each time there's been any type of thing that may have come across as a mistake.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you so much. I have one more question for you before I hop over to Jolinda. How is the current climate, the pandemic, impacted your business with clothing? And because we have so many big box stores filing bankruptcy and they're closing down. So how are you impacted?
Well, it actually hasn't hurt me at all. And a lot of it's been repeat customers. It's also been some new customers along the way. But I think the best part, or one of the things that's important on my side, is I decided not to do brick and mortar right off the bat. So I don't have that storefront or anything like that. I'm more about that personalized service. And so I did not have a lot of additional expenses along the way. So, but to kind of answer your questions in quickly, it hasn't.
That's good. That's
Mhm.
amazing.
Mhm.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Kevin. I'll be back with you.
Yeah.
Jolinda,
Yes, ma'am.
how has the current pandemic, COVID, impacted your business at all?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my main day job of graphic design and web design can be done pretty virtually anyway. So for the most part, I've seen a little bit of a slowdown, but not a complete stop. And I would say for my fashion part of what I do with the necklaces, I'm very early in my journey as an entrepreneur in the fashion industry. So it's building. And again, I'm going to just shout out the Richmond Night Market again. They've been amazing supporters of creatives. When everything happened, they were set to launch their second season. And that's where I meet a lot of new customers, but they shifted to online right away. So I've actually sold as much as last markets of last year in the same month, if not a little more, just because they were so great about shifting and promoting and getting people exposure and putting all of our website links and our Instagram links up on their platforms to just really help make sure that creatives got a lot of attention. And so, yeah, it hasn't been too bad for me.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Mhm.
Good, good, good. Okay. While I have you here, Jolinda, how much money did it cost you to start your business?
So I would say my craft supplies are probably the biggest cost. And I just buy that stuff all the time anyway. I probably should be better about keeping records. But it really didn't cost me anything as far as a license or anything right away because I just started naturally making things. And friends of mine would ask, where did you have that? Where did you get that? And they would just buy it straight from me. Or they would say, do you happen to have beads in this color or that color? And I could just kind of use my supplies. And because I didn't, it was sort of an organic growth around making something that I would have made and worn myself anyway. Someone asked about purchasing it, and then I started to sell from the customer demand. It was sort of a natural organic thing instead of me having this idea of I've got to have a website and a storefront and all these things. And I don't even sell them on my own website right now just because all of those things take money for plugins and credit card processing and all that. I would say maybe $75 was my business license once I formalized things. So not a lot, honestly.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Jolinda. I'll be back with you. Kevin,
Yes, ma'am.
how much did it cost you to start your business?
I guess your business license, like, you had to do that. And then from there, I probably spent a little more because I think in my world, I had to have some type of website. So putting the website, getting that in place, building out a social media platform. So, which was mainly me in the beginning. But with the website and some of the other things it was, yes, the website was a big piece. So of all of it. So that was about 2,000, about 2,500 for that. And then sometimes along the way, you're learning and you're meeting some people who can help you and some whom you made a mistake on. I call it tuition. So
How much materials cost?
materials are usually built into the cost of the order. So it just depends on the order itself. So that's why I'm not really including that as much, because it's, if you were to sit down and say, hey, I'd like a custom suit along with some shirts and some other things, I've already built that cost into your cost. So it's in there. So that's what I'm saying. My out-of-pocket costs were mainly all of the licenses and the website piece.
Okay. All right. Where do you get your materials at for your suits?
Two places, China and also Italy.
Has the pandemic impacted you as far as import coming from those two locations?
Early on, it did, because things were delayed. And of course, a lot of those well, both of those, look at Italy and China, and they were both shut down. So for a portion where the workers weren't there or they were in a limited staff, and so a lot of the orders were delayed, but it was nice that, I had a customer base that was pretty understanding along the way, and they were like, we get it. And it's not like they could go anywhere anyway. So we were, where are you going to wear your suits? But yeah, it did impact them initially, but everybody's pretty much back to work in China. They're back to work in Italy. And then also my new custom shoe line, they're back to work in Spain as well. So.
Okay, awesome. You got a shoe line too?
Yes.
Oh, wow. We might need you for a fashion show. We might have to bring you back for a virtual fashion.
Let me know.
Okay. Have a question for you. How much did your tuition cost when you went to art school?
Oh wow, oh wow. Yeah. I'm not even sure. I think it was about.
Oh, you're that old.
Yeah, I'm old. Yeah. Let's just say it's going to be a lot more now than what it was when I
can say. I can remember my tuition costs, and it's nowhere near that, so that ages me. But I think it was around $8,500 a year.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Right around 8,000, something like that a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And my parents, to be honest with you, my parents talked to me around middle school, and they said grades are going to be pretty serious from like 8th grade on up, and we don't have the money to send you to school. So if you want to go to school, you got to get good grades and be able to apply for scholarships, or you're just going to have to get a job. And so fortunately, I was able to do that with like a grade-based scholarship to VCU.
Okay, awesome. And also a question for both of you all, whoever just wants to jump in. Who is your target market?
Jolinda, so you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah, I would say my target market is women or men who are buying for women in their lives. It tends to be people who are, I would say, 30 plus career women, basically, who are trying out color for the first time. I mean, you can only see my top, but I'm like, my company name is Shapes and Colors because I love color. I just layer it on. A lot of people are maybe not as comfortable with color. So a lot of times the people that are purchasing from me might have a more neutral wardrobe or black or white wardrobe, and this bright necklace might just be a pop of color. It might be the most colorful thing they have or the thing that finishes their outfit. But I also have some other customers who love color and love pattern. And so it really is dependent on if a line that I make goes with their personal aesthetic. So some of mine are very bright and clashy and contrasty with lots of colors that I like. Sometimes it might be a couple of the colors that I like, very simple. And that is what people love. So it really just depends.
Yeah, because their colors are really popping. I love how you coordinated today. I love it all. And it's bright. Okay, Kevin.
Well, my target market when I set the company up was designed so that no matter whom you were or where you were in your life, you would be able to purchase a custom suit from me. I felt like sometimes when people got into the custom clothing business, it was always designed for more so your executives or your high-level CEOs, and those were the folks or your attorneys and who were buying those things. And I still wanted to have that piece for them, but I also wanted it for that person that said that I needed a go-to suit, so that if they were going out somewhere, they were going to be able to have a nice suit that they could put on, or an outfit that they would feel comfortable with, that would fit them, so that they wouldn't have to worry about tailoring and some of the other things. So I've always said I've got that individual who's just starting out and they would like, hey, let's try a custom suit, to the executives and the folks who are saying, hey, where is that Italian fabric at? Or where is that stuff at? That's what I want along the way. So And my market is actually diversity. I mean, gotten even more diverse along the way because I'm not only catering to men, but also, again, I had a friend of mine who asked me to do some shirts for her. And that's how I got into working with ladies custom clothing as well, because I was going to put that off for a while. So I've got men and women that I've worked with, and they're from college grads on up to CEOs.
That's great. So where do you go to find your market?
Most of my market is through recommendations and word of mouth, and then also my own marketing piece. I was fortunate because a lot of folks knew me anyway from a fashion from a clothing standpoint. So that was a natural in along the way. And then a lot of it came from a lot of trade shows. I did a few trade shows, did some shows actually for NBL, did some shows for some other events early in the year and each year. And I would meet a few people, and then they would always turn into more people along the way. So I had to kind of get out and try to position myself similar to, again, the financial world, where I had to be in place where I knew a lot of folks were there, and I had to start, letting them see this is what I'm available for, and I'm not trying to take, if you've got a clothier or someone to be working with, I'm not trying to take, I just want a shot. Right.
Yeah. One of the students said you're always dressed to impress.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Jolinda.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any other businesses that are non-competing, like with what you do, that you partner with to help open up your brand, your jewelry to another client base? Like, I see a lot of photographers doing like photo shoots and bringing in the whole team for the client.
Miss Kimberly, I feel like you are a plant, because like these are all things I should have already mentioned. That's so great. So I partner with a local photographer that does headshot parties, and she actually has brought me in as her wardrobe stylist, and I bring my personal jewelry collection for anyone that wants an extra pop, because sometimes you might have things that you wear every day, but if you're taking a photograph and you're investing money and getting a headshot for your resume or a new job application, sometimes you just want a little bit extra flair. And as I said, I have all the flair, all of it. So I usually bring it with me. And sometimes I'll let the people at the photography party borrow, but I will bring my own collection sometimes and can sell and meet people there. I also will partner, and it's not quite so much partner, but a place like the Richmond Night Market is a perfect platform, but there are other vendor markets that will happen, whether it's at a school or sometimes it'll be a corporate office holiday shopping party where they'll get a bunch of vendors together. You apply, you show up, and you set up a table with all of your pieces. And so that way people, as they're leaving work, or it might be after school, they come and they can shop. So I tend to do a lot of markets around holidays. So it might be like a Valentine's Day or a Christmas time market, and I'll meet people there. And then I don't pay for any marketing. I do a lot of my own marketing. So I'll use Facebook or Instagram, and a lot of times people will buy directly just by seeing something and messaging me. And Venmo, I love Venmo, y'all. It's super easy to use, no fees involved. And if you have a bank account, I'm always a fan of trying to figure out how to keep my prices at a place where people can afford it, but I can also make money. And they say in retail, you should probably mark up things 50 to 100%, sometimes a little more depending on your materials cost. And people are only going to pay but so much for a necklace. So it's a lot of trying to figure out what helps me sell and make money without digging into my profits with the fees.
Okay. And also somebody, one of the ladies with the Richmond Night Market, they shouted you out. They said, thank you for mentioning that platform. They greatly appreciate you.
Favorite.
And you mentioned you work for Stella Dot. I'm familiar with Stella Dot. And for those of you all not familiar with Stella Dot, it's more of a higher, it's like a paparazzi, it's like paparazzi, but it's more of higher end jewelry, but still handmade, crafted jewelry. But the, you know, nothing's $5. And
oh no,
so,
yeah, I feel like the necklaces that I make are at a much different price point.
yeah.
But the lesson that I learned from that is if there are companies that you admire, or if there are people in the industry that you want to learn a little bit more from. I'm an introvert, meaning I don't like to talk to a whole lot of people that I don't know very well. It just makes me tired. Some people are extroverted and they love meeting new people and it just fires them up. For me, it makes me tired. So I would have been that person that just sat at my table and didn't pick my head up and talk to people. And when you're trying to sell things at markets or meet new customers, you have to be friendly, you have to be open. So for me, that experience with Stella and Dot was a way for me to learn how to interact with customers, how to describe the jewelry, how to educate someone on what went into a piece of jewelry that might be very expensive. Not saying that they're going to buy it, but if somebody knows it has like 3 to 5 different ways to wear it, or if they know the special materials that go into it, it might make more sense to them to invest in it versus it's just sitting on the table and they don't know what goes into it.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. That's great insight too, as far as how to get to train up, to really put yourself out there and market yourself. So thank you for sharing that, Jolinda. Kevin.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's talk shoes. You know, you got a lot of men out here. You got a lot of women. We all love shoes. And we got a question. How do you make your shoes?
They are, when you say, how do I make them? Meaning it's very similar to the custom suit. Is your design, your way is pretty much how I like to put it. If you want a slip-on versus a lace-up versus a monk strap versus, and I'm mentioning different names here, versus, you know, even a sneaker style with the dress look, you can do it any way you want. Difference is you can actually pick those colors and styles and soles. They're all, of course, handmade, custom leather. I mean, they're all the top of the line leather. Or so you could do suede, you could do some of the other exotics, some of the guys like that versus some of the other. So you're gonna have any and everything you want. And that is hopefully scheduled to be like a formal announcement for September 1st. So we got a bunch of them coming. I've got, you know, a few samples now and a few things I've ordered and looked at them, and just to make sure that it's what I like and what I think the customer will appreciate. But from start to finish, you get to design that shoe.
Awesome. So, okay, that's what I was getting my next question, because, you know, I'm a little older than I look. So, you know, I remember the Stacey Adams and the Gators. And, you know, they could go, my stepdad and my granddad would go into the shop and they would fit it for their shoes and everything. So that's what I was going to ask you, you know, with the shoes, can they be fitted before, you know, to make sure they get the proper size?
Oh, without a doubt. And then also I'm going to make sure I have the fit comparable to shoes that they have worn in the past. So if they're used to a certain vendor or a certain company, like whether it be a Kohan or Ferragamo, any of these guys out there, I'll be able to make those sizes versus their fit comparable to that shoe.
Okay. What are your price ranges? What is your starting price for your suits, and what will the starting price be for your shoes as well?
All right. For suits, the starting price for suits started at $580, and it go up. Typically we go, I mean, it just depends on fabric at that point. For suits, more than often when there's a new client or a new customer, I should say, I always give them a you know, introductory type discount. So, and that's how it works on the custom suits. Shirts and things like that, it just depends on fabric again. And they're all tailored, of course, for those individuals. The custom the custom shoes, it just depends on the style, from the sneaker style on up, but they're custom. So they're not going to be, you know, price points like, you know, Ferragamos or anything like that, but they will, you know, they'll have a true custom feel to them, though.
Awesome. Are your shoes being made overseas?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Kevin.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Jolinda,
Yes, ma'am.
got questions for you. How much does your jewelry cost?
So I usually
Well,
sell.
Okay.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I said, or you can just starting cost, like a range for it.
Yeah, so I usually sell my necklaces between $20 and $35 per strand. Right now, I am learning on how, and this is something as well, when you're making something by hand, usually you get faster the more that you make it. So if I were just to make one necklace, I'm learning and figuring it out and picking up my colors and putting a tassel together. If I completely change my mind, then I've got to pick out different colors and work that out and do something different. So what I have learned is that if I can make, 10 to 20 of a version and kind of get that going, it takes me less time to make each one over time. And I have sold them from $20 to $35, and usually I try and double or do 100% markup, but also still trying to keep it affordable to the end user, because it's not necessarily precious materials. They're usually glass beads and thread tassels.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you, Jolinda. And the next question is, well, I can ask you, being that you work for Stella Dot, do you plan for in the future to make your company, your brand, your jewelry equivalent to the Stella Dot or in the paparazzi, where you build your own team and mass produce your jewelry and put it out there to the world?
That's a great question. Right now, that's not really what I see as my vision. A lot of what I like to do is just touch it and build it and make it myself. And a lot of times those companies, and not that there's anything wrong, people have different visions for how they want to set up their company, because it's super smart. A lot of times the artist behind those lines, they sketch it, they might make one of them, and then they have a team of people to make the rest of it. And I really love putting it together. I love having my hands in it. I love building it myself. And a lot of making things and creativity helps me mentally and emotionally. It just helps me feel even. It helps me feel level. It's like my therapy to make stuff. So I don't know that I want to remove myself from the making of all of the pieces. I also have a passion of trying to use local materials and work with local people. And sometimes when you get into bigger production, you have to outsource or offshore the building of your pieces to still be able to make a profit. So for now, kind of my vision is to keep it somewhat small. I make all the pieces and sell them directly.
Okay, thank you, Jolinda. And I'll be back with you. Kevin.
Yes.
Mr. Suits and Shoes. Do you would you like to expand your company to have other people sell your suits for you, or you're just going to be a one-stop shop?
Yes, I will. I'm actually in the process now of expanding, not so much for the suit stock, but more so I have another gentleman that I'm going to meet with this weekend who's going to represent the ties, bow ties, the scarves, the bomber jackets. I'm doing custom everything. So I've got that piece that's going to come into play. So I'm definitely expanding there. I'm also partnering with another gentleman, and we've got a joint venture between, we call it Suits and Cigars. So where we're all over. We're in Carolina, Atlanta. We run our companies that way. And so where we kind of partner with these type of events together and added another piece. So I see mine expanding from that standpoint, to definitely having folks actually represent the company and being, of course, across the U.S. It was built, and my passion, my vision when I first started the company was really for it to be exclusively online. Everything was going to be you come in and do everything yourself, tailor the suit, and you put in the measurements. I'll show you how to do all of that. And then you file them to me, then I'll take care of the rest, and then we ship them to you. Well, it turns out that most of the stuff that I do is more of a personalized service and custom. So I'm sitting there with consultation. I actually prefer that. But now the business has actually gotten to the point where I've got customers in Florida, California, all over there. They just go right online, and then I talk to them if they need me to do it, and some other things along the way. So that works. So I see a vision of going out. So I got a lot of things kind of running through.
How do you do everything? And I guess that's for both of you all. How do you find the time to have a full-time job or another full-time business while you're building another full-time business?
Well, for me, it's tough. At the same time, I'm able to compartmentalize things. So if I'm working with the custom clothing business, that's what I'm working with. I'm not doing any financial planning stuff at that time. If I'm on my financial planning side, that's what I'm doing. I'm not doing any custom clothing. I don't mix clients. So if I'm meeting with a financial planning client, I'm not telling them, hey, by the way, I also can, help you with your suits, your shirts. I don't mention it. More often than not, they come to me and ask me about it, but it's not going to come from me because I like for them to understand that's what I'm there for. I put in a few hours of I tend to take Sunday off and kind of relax and kind of be to myself. And Fridays and Saturday evenings, I like to kind of just not do anything work related. And I'm able to do it that way, but it gets tough.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Kevin. Okay, I'll be back with you. Jolinda.
Yes, ma'am. I would say that I have a similar setup. Usually I'm doing my graphic design and web design during the work day because that's when clients need things or we have meetings or something like that. And then again, I don't mention what I do. If someone asks me what I'm wearing or where I got it, I will tell them. But like Kevin said, I want people to know that I'm first and foremost there to serve them in whatever capacity. And I'm not trying to not trying to appear like I have hands in too many pots. A lot of what I do for the jewelry making is after hours or on my own time or over the weekend. Having deadlines like a show or a vending opportunity or some sort of market to show up to is a huge motivator for me. It reminds me of being in art school and having an assignment where somebody else is keeping you accountable. You have to show up somewhere. You want to have new things to show. So that helps me kind of motivate to get that work done.
How much does it cost you to vend, like for one event?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's so many different price points for vendor events. So some that I have done might be free just because it could be a corporate office or a law firm or who knows, and they just want people there to create a party atmosphere. So you might hear of some of those. So sometimes they'll be free. Sometimes they are from $25 to $50 to $100 or more per event. And some of the really intense weekend long vendor events might be $500 or $1,000 for the weekend. So it really varies depending on what the vendor market gives you in terms of, do they promote your business? Do they put you on their website? Do they do advertising for you? Do they bring in the customers that will help you make those sales versus right. You just kind of show up and hope people show up. So it's a big range of things. I would say average $30 to $50 in Richmond.
Right. And then when you do the trade shows, you're looking at getting into the hundreds up to the thousands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it depends on, the market. Let's say if it were at the convention center and it was a weekend long buyer event where multiple high-end buyers are placing orders for their stores, let's say, then I might expect to pay a lot more to be at that versus it might be a neighborhood market where the people from the neighborhood will show up, they'll buy it personally, but so it's all different ranges.
Okay. Are you open to doing any home shows?
I am. Someone asked that in the chat. That's such a smart thing. I absolutely would be.
Okay,
That'll
awesome.
be fun.
Mhm.
All right. Okay, Kevin,
Yes.
got a question for you. Got a brain fog. It's coming back to me. Okay, if you could go back and talk to your younger self
Oh boy.
about business, look over your journey, and I'm giving you a moment, Jolinda, to think over. Um, what would you tell your younger self? And if you could go back and do something better, what would that be?
I believe one of the things that I lacked early on was discipline in my approach. I was Jelinda, mentioned the introvert earlier, the extrovert. I'm the ultimate extrovert, so I'm all over the place sometimes. And so I would start something knowing I could see it, and I was not disciplined in my approach with it. So I would tell my younger self, if you're going to do it, start it, plan it out, and make sure you've got an actual end result or something in mind as to how you have it in. That would discipline be the main thing I would add to my info.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, okay. Okay, I'll come back to you, Kevin. Okay, Jelinda, thank you, Kevin. Jelinda,
Yes, ma'am.
what would you go back and tell your younger self? And what would you do better?
So I think try everything is what I would say. I feel like I've had about 15 different jobs over the course of my career. I might have 15 more, I don't know. But every experience or every class I took or every trip that I took with school or any internship I tried, I always learned something. And sometimes what I learned was, ooh, I don't like this at all. And I think that's as important as learning what you do like. And I would say for any family members that are supporting any of their young people and trying to figure out what they want to do, if there's an opportunity to talk to an adult that has that career or talk to even a student in that track in college, there's so much that you can learn from people and just being open to those conversations. I had a vision of what I thought I wanted to do, and over the summers I would go and do a summer camp or go visit a place, and I had an idea of what it was in my head, and then I would show up and hate every second of it. And it was good because that meant I didn't spend 4 years in college trying that thing. Or, and sometimes people would say, you got to start something, you got to finish it. But I don't think there's any shame in starting a degree and saying, you know what, I don't think I really like what I'm learning here, and shifting. And there's a lot of people that do that when they get to college. So I would say just try as much as you can. And, it's not like the road ends. You can always
Right.
kind of twist and turn and figure something out a little differently.
Okay, and I have another question. What kind of graphic design do you do? And it's real quick, like 1 minute answer.
Sure.
What kind of graphic design do you do, and how does it impact? How do you use it in your business, making your jewelry?
Yeah, so I do branding, so logo design, and I do website design. So some of those startup costs that Kevin mentioned, I didn't have to pay because I could make my own website. What I use in graphic design is how to visually communicate an idea. And I think the way that bleeds over into my jewelry is I try and communicate with shapes and colors and color schemes and combinations to have something feel or look a certain way. And it may not be as specific or obvious in my jewelry as it is in my graphic design, but I feel like those creative parts of my brain of how to get a story out, they happen similarly.
Okay, all right, thank you, Jolinda. Kevin?
Yes.
We got a question for you.
Okay.
Do you make women's suits and women's shoes?
Yes.
Okay. Do you do the heels for the women or the kitten heels?
I was just about to say, with the exception of the heels, I don't do the heels. It's
Okay.
more of a casual look for the ladies. But the suits, it's everything. Suits, the shirts, the whole attire, yeah.
Okay, that's great, Kevin. Okay. How can we find you?
The easiest way to find me is on, Instagram or, at the Facebook page, at the Suited Fox is my, that's the easiest way to find me. You also can, and it has my email address and everything there, rep@thesuitedfox.com. That's REP at thesuitedfox.com is where a lot of people will contact me but Instagram is where I get the bulk of my traction.
Okay, great. And also we have somebody in the chats ask, could they get a suit?
Without a doubt, yes, they can.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Yeah, that's awesome. You got a lot going on for you, so amazing. Okay, Jolinda makes flyers and bulletins. See, they're asking her about graphics. We're doing fashion. Yeah. Okay, Jolinda.
Yes, ma'am.
One last question. See, you're getting some business, I see. How can we find you?
So I had a very smart college teacher that told me to register my name. So you can find me at jolinda.com. And you can also find me on Facebook if you search Shapes and Colors. And my Instagram is Shapes and Colors RVA, but they're all interconnected. So you can just, if you remember one, jolinda.com, that'll have links to all the others.
Okay, thank you. I would like to thank our CEOs today. I would like to thank Jolinda and Kevin for your time. I really enjoyed the time with you today, very informative. I learned a lot. I would also like to thank again our sponsors, the Robin Foundation, the Metropolitan Business League, the City of Richmond, and the Richmond Public Schools. And I would love to thank our participants for joining us today. And we will see you. Join us next week for our last Meet the CEO series for week 4. And they're thanking you all for your time. And you got some customers coming. They're saying they're following up with you, Kevin and Jolinda.
All right, nice.
So great session for you to get some customers. I know I will be in touch with both of you myself. And I look forward to seeing you all out there in the future. So thank you, everyone. And join us back here next week, same time, and we'll be in a different industry. So enjoy and be safe out there, everyone.
You all do the same. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kimberly. Have a good day, everybody. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Great job, you all. Thanks.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Hello? Where's everybody at? Who's still here?
I'm here.
Allison left? Who's
No,
here?
she's still here.
Okay. I'm trying to see who's here. Jared's here. Allison's here. Okay. Yeah, we had Jared and I forgot his name. I don't know why I'm getting brain fog today. But
You know my cousin?
What'd you say?
You know my cousin?
Oh, that's your cousin? Oh, your cousin? Who, Jared's your cousin?
He is my cousin.
Look, hey, family.
Hey,
you know.
Him and my mom were listening today.
Oh, awesome.
This is right up their alley. So
Hey.
they chimed in.
Hey, that's
Hey,
good.
fam.
Enjoy, Jared.
I don't even know. Is he still on?
Yeah, he's here. Can you unmute yourself, Jared? Just tap on the screen and just hit the mic. It's red and it has a line through it. There you go.
Nope.
He did exit out. He said, nope, I don't want to talk to you.
Well, he's working, so.
Oh, okay.
Like,
Today was good.